By the end of this episode of the Fallible Man podcast with Hollywood trainer Ajax Cortes, we'll have answered, what is a man? You'll know what the four pillars of health are. You'll know the intricate piece that most men miss in their lives for staying healthy and fit. And you'll know what two common traits all successful people seem to share. Now, if you want to skip through the get to know you segment with Ajax, timestamps are in the description or the show notes, whatever platform you're on. And Ajax wanted you to hear this one thing, if nothing else, then we'll get on with the show. Check it out.
Yeah, I would say for every man listening, that if you want to be your highest self and live the life that you could dream of having, the highest level of achievement, success, put your health first, always maintain that, and that will be your foundation for the rest of your life. Just that one thing. It can, in fact, be that simple. There's only two things that of everyone I've ever worked with, it's successful. They've only two things in common. Number one, they follow a schedule. They prioritize their time. They value their time. That's what that represents. And number two, they exercise. Those are two things every man has in common that I consider admirable. Schedule priorities, exercise. You do that, you have that, everything else, as I said, sky's the limit.
Here's the $1,000,000 question. How do men like us reach our full potential, grow into the men we dream of being, while taking care of our responsibilities, working, being good husbands, fathers, and still take care of ourselves? Well, that's the big question. In this podcast, we'll help you answer those questions and more. My name is Brent, and welcome to the Fallible Man podcast. Welcome to the Fallible Man podcast, your home for all things man, husband, and father. Big shout out to Fallible Nation, that's our private community, and a warm welcome to our first-time listeners. Hey, I know there's a lot out there competing for your attention, so it means a lot to us that you're giving us a chance. I hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to reach out to me at the Fallible Man on Instagram or any other social media. Let me know, and if you really enjoy it, share the show with somebody or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps out a lot. My special guest today is entrepreneur and trainer Alexander Cortes. Alex, welcome to the Fallible Man podcast.
How you doing, Brent?
Man, I'm excited for today's show. I think we're going to have a great conversation. But Alex, we like to start out pretty light here. So how's your trivia skills?
Trivia. Probably lacking at this point. There was a time I used to. You ever read the Bathroom Reader series?
Oh yeah.
Okay, there was a point in my life where I read the entire series. Up to that point, it was 35 books, and after that, I did this in my early 20s, and I was just it's like a Jeopardy, kind of contestant. I can answer anything, this useless facts. That was over a decade ago, so might not be so sharp now. But let's find out.
We'll see. It's really, I pick random questions. I generally try and avoid if I know one of my guests has a specialty, I actually purposely try and avoid those. But I was being nice today, so it was at least a sports-based question. How's that?
That's gonna be a bloodbath. Go for it.
What sport is Steve Redgrave known for? Is it A, swimming, B, rowing, C, football, or D, basketball?
I'm just gonna guess rowing.
All right. Now, guys, you know the rules. Don't cheat. Don't look it up. Don't mess around. And for God's sake, if you're driving, please don't write it down while you're driving. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Now, Alex, we'll get into what you do and your backstory. But today, in this moment, in your own words, who is Alexander Cortes?
Alexander Juan Antonio Cortez, I use the full name. So, father, entrepreneur, personal trainer, and educator, teacher, right, most of all, for how the world knows me on a public level.
Okay. Is that how you see you?
Yes. Yeah, I've always I divide my life into, you have two spheres. You have your personal, private life, which is how people know you, individually, people you have relationships with, which this could be as a husband, as a father, as a friend. And then you have the life that you lead externally, which that's going to be more of your profession, your job, how, like I said, the world knows you within the external domain. The way most people know me externally, I'm a teacher for them. A teacher, paternal figure that way, perhaps a brotherly, fatherly kind of figure. And then, within my individual life, obviously I'm married, I have a wife, I have kids. and they know me very differently.
All right. And you're married and a father. So congratulations on both those aspects, right?
Thanks.
It's amazing how much of our lives that becomes as we go, right? The world changed drastically when I got married, then changed even more drastically when I had kids. It's not more or less, it's just different. So,
Oh, hugely. Like I haven't been a dad that long. My son was born like a year and a half ago, a little more than that, like whatever, 20 months. But being married and then also, then having children, it puts far more demands on you. Just like what you actually are, who you are, what you're made of. Uh, and I don't miss being a single man, but there is like like as you're obviously married yourself, you have kids, but like there's a dramatic difference in your definition. Um, is how you see your being, before being single than after having being responsible for people. It's just a shift. And life's never the same again. You can never. It's like this. You can never go back. Not that you'd want to, but it's also interesting when you talk to younger men who are single, right, like in their 20s, where it's whether you want to or not, you sort of have this dad energy. Where it's like you're just older than them. Like you're older than them. You're going to be a bit more mature. And you see, I think of like my parents now. It's like I kind of, like you understand you're also like your father for the first time as well. It's like you just don't have that until you're there. So it's been cool. Like I've really enjoyed the journey of it, and I've written about as well. But I think it's actually made me a nicer person the last few years. You just become more sympathetic to people since you can kind of see a lot of their individual perhaps issues that they have, or just bad parents when they were younger.
okay.
I think it's very real. So
Coffee, tea, energy drink, soda, or something else?
all of them. I, I'm I'm a great proponent of beverage maxing. I'm one of those guys. I always like to be drinking something different. I like novelty. So like I'll often have coffee in the morning. Right now I'm having an energy drink, which it just goes faster. Then I'll have like an afternoon. Yeah, there you go. Coffee. I'll have coffee in the morning. Then sometimes I'll have tea. And then I'll switch like sparkling water. In the evening I'll do like tea again, like non-caffeinated. I drink a lot of Topo Chico. It's just fun. Yeah, and also I think doing different beverages, it's sort of it can act as a state change. So you might have something where you drink, during the morning, it's coffee, puts you into a certain mood, and then afternoon, maybe you're doing reflective work. Excuse me. Yeah, maybe you're reflecting on your work, you're planning for the next day. So it's like, okay, that's it. Whatever, tea time. Like Topo Chico. Then late at night, it's something else where it's like, okay, the day's winding down. I'm gonna do like the hot chocolate. So I mean, that's how I am. I'm not one of those people where I can drink the same thing all day. I also drink water too, right? Like I just have straight water, of course. But it always makes my wife laugh. So I always just have these different things I'm always drinking for a few hours. She got used to it, of course.
Oh yeah, there's something always in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. There's something, right? Whether it's the energy drink or the coffee, I'm the same way. Have you tried the Liquid Death
I
water?
have.
I'm starting to dig that. I like the lime.
Yeah, I haven't tried the flavor ones. I tried them like 3 or 4 years ago when it first came out. It was just
Mhm.
water.
Yeah,
I thought it was something else when I opened it up. I was like, Liquid Death. Maybe that's I don't know. It's like a flavored water or a mineral water. I just realized it was just regular water with a cool can, right?
right. Yeah,
Yeah. And then they had a sparkling version and a flat version. I was like, okay, this is just not what I was expecting. And then, now they just got a flavored version. Yeah, but
yeah.
also the company's doing, I think, hundreds of millions in sales right now with $1 billion valuation. So, that ironic, I don't even know what you'd call that market, like the meta irony market of just drinking water in a death head can is
Right.
caught on.
Well, that was I read the company statement at one point. They're like making water cool again or something. The CEO, the founder, was inspired because not everybody realizes this. I think Monster actually makes Turing drinks, and it's just water in a can. He was at like a big all day what do you call it? Concert, right? Big multi band concert, whatever you call those. and he was just watching the singers and stuff just down these cans. He's like, they're going to die of a heart attack drinking that much Monster on stage. And then he found out that Monster puts out touring drinks, which is water in a can for bands. So they're not just drinking a water bottle on stage. That way they're branded water on stage.
Okay, makes sense.
Right. So he decided to go after that market. But
I mean, honestly, it's a great idea. Like, when I saw it, you never know what's going to make money. Like, I've always been struck by. I've seen people make bags, get rich in the most absurd kind of niches, or with these products that just like, really, like, people buy this. Yes, they do. Like water, Monster water, for example. I was consulting with a beverage company like a few years ago for like potentially sort of launching new water. And they wanted to call it like Cobra water, and the market research like tested well, and all it was just water with a Cobra on it. But it did end up working out because like the investors fell through and all that. But yeah, I still think about that. I'm like, imagine that'd be like a hit product. What made it unique, right? I'm like, it's just spring water with a Cobra on the can.
Yeah.
That was all it was.
Kiss nailed that years ago. Kiss came up with the concept. I mean, are you familiar with the story how Kiss was formed?
Yes.
Right. This is what Kiss went to prove. All you got to have is a really great gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be stellar. You don't have to be the best. You just have to have a really good gimmick and you can sell stuff. So
I think I think it was Gene Simmons. He has like an autobiography about
the
making of Kiss. It's just interesting. The guy had a brilliant business mind where it's like, okay, we're going to have a look, and we're going to have merchandise. Like, very, if you probably write yourself, but like, very early on, like the process for the band is like, we're going to do T-shirts. We're going to, we're going to take the, all the face paint, all that. We're just going to put everything we can to sell that stuff. Obviously they end up becoming hyper successful because of it. Whether the music was good or not, it's like, hey, we're okay.
He taught them all how to play their instruments. He was a music teacher, and so he taught them all how to play their instruments because it started as a bet in the teacher's lounge. He's like, oh yeah, give me a couple guys who can play their instruments, and I can give me gimmick. You don't have to be good. And they're like, yeah, right. It started as a very bro conversation.
Very super bro. And then I mean, they became, it's arguably one of the most successful bands of their time, of all time.
Right.
The amount of merchandising money they made.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Let me go back in time here. I don't reflect back on childhood much. I don't know if this would count as childhood memory, but when I did graduate high school, that was, I guess you could say, if you call that childhood, since I was 18, but I was ecstatic. Because I never wanted, I was one of those kids where I never liked being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had great parents. My parents were wonderful people, awesome father, awesome mother, but I just resented the whole schooling system, like a very, very young age. It always felt like a massive waste of time. It was inefficient. A lot of it was just pointless bullshit, honestly. Majority of it. So like from probably around like second, third grade, I was just always fantasizing about being an adult and being older. I was always also a voracious reader from like the elementary school on. So I'd be reading great novels and reading about adults having adventures, or it'd be like the kid, sort of like the orphan archetype. They're having an adventure, getting to go into the adult world. But I was stuck in this damn school system until my K through 12. So when I finally turned 18, I'm like, oh, okay, like this is over. It's done. I never have to go back to this. Like life can actually begin. So like that was, graduating high school, I just remember walking off the stage and like, that was the happiest I'd ever felt at that point in my life.
I'm a real boy now, right? Yeah. Life can begin.
Then I had to go to college, which was also a waste of time. But at least I had more freedom over my time, which versus having to go through compulsory schooling. So,
what's your go-to weapon for the zombie apocalypse?
Go-to weapon? Yeah, I mean, surviving a zombie apocalypse, I think, is really more about just maintaining distance. So, like, if you had this like a good sniper rifle, It's really all you need.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
What's something everyone should know about you before we dig into the subject today?
Everyone should know. I mean, this is perhaps petty, but I go by the two names. I either go by Alexander or Ajax. I've never gone by Alex. That's it. It's all good. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Fail moment as a host right there.
I've never introduced myself as Alex. I just don't use Alex as a name at all.
That's a total fail on my part as a host, guys. I blew that one entirely.
Totally okay.
Normally I ask like before the show starts, like, do you
Yeah.
have a preference on what I call you? But I've shortened Alexander to Alex my whole life. I didn't even think about it.
Oh,
I'm
everybody does.
sorry. Failure. Guys, we begin to know Ajax just a little bit. In the next part of the show, we're going to dive into what he does and the question, what is a man? We're going to roll our sponsor and we'll be right back with more from Alexander Cortez. Are you tired of tossing and turning at night, searching for that elusive perfect pillow or just better bedding in general? Well, look no further. Our podcast is proudly sponsored by MyPillow, the renowned American pillow manufacturer. With over 50 million pillows sold and a legacy of quality, MyPillow knows that you work hard for your money and want quality products at an affordable price. That's why they're offering all TFM listeners and friends the special promo code for massive savings year round. Enjoy some of the finest sheets, pillows, slippers, mattress toppers, bath towels, and comforters on the market today. Save big when you order with free promo code TFM. That's TFM, the Fallible Man podcast, obviously, on all 250 quality American products at MyPillow. MyPillow is here to transform your sleep experience. And as a special treat for our listeners, you can enjoy up to 80% off your order with the code TFM. Yes, you heard that right. Up to 80% off. You'll not only enjoy some of the most comfortable and cozy products you've ever bought, but also support a great American company, the Fallible Man podcast, and save a ton of money doing it. It's really a triple win. So why wait? Head over to mypillow.com/TFM or call 800-796-9775. That's 800-796-9775 to order now. You can't be your best without a good night's sleep, and MyPillow delivers. Guys, welcome back. In the first part of the show, we spent some time getting to know who Alexander Cortez is. In this part of the show, we're going to dig into a little bit of what Alex does actually, and the question, what is a man? Because Alex's answer just really stuck out of my head, and I want to have that conversation. So, Alex, before we dig into that, though, we need to know a little more about you. So, you've had an incredibly distinguished career in fitness. We talked a little bit before we actually started recording, and just blew my mind even more from what I already knew about you. But you've gone from working in box gyms all the way to Hollywood and everything in between. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So fitness career. So I guess I'll kind of start from the beginning. So I'm 35 now. I've been a personal trainer since I was 20. So I'm one of the few people who has just done one thing essentially their entire adult life in terms of building a skill set, talent stack. Fitness has like a very high dropout rate. But about 90% of trainers just quit in their first year. So if you meet anyone in fitness that's been doing it longer than 5 years, they're probably pretty good. And for myself, it's the only career I've had my entire adult professional life. It started when I was 20. My original career plan, if you could call it that, I wanted to be a professional ballet dancer. That's actually what I went to college for. It was a dance performance and choreography degree. This is like back in 2007, 8, 9. And that didn't work out. I got very injured the first year. I tore off sort of part of my left hamstring, essentially. So my left leg never worked right after that. Still doesn't, but works pretty well, mostly. So that kind of killed that pretty young. And so I was in college. I was getting a liberal arts degree. I realized this was a worthless degree. I got very red pilled, as we call it now, on a sort of state of society, state of education. And I didn't know what to do. And I was having to do my own rehab for my leg. And I found out that I really enjoyed fitness. I liked working out. I liked learning about the process. And as I got closer to graduating, I saw that personal training, you could get certified in a weekend unfortunately. Very low barrier to entry, but you got paid more than minimum wage. So I thought, you know what? I'll do this job and maybe it will turn into something, but at least I'll be able to pay my bills. So I was 20, started personal training, and essentially just never stopped. And so that was like I said, that was quite a number of years ago. And originally I started off in big box gyms. I worked at like 24-hour fitness, crunch. I had a big breakthrough that happened in, man, when was this now? 2014. It was a while ago. 2014, so like over a decade ago, basically. I had a client that was a Bollywood actor, and I went with him to India for 6 months and trained him there. Obviously, visited a foreign country. India is very different from the United States. It's an Eastern civilization. And at the same time I was training him, I started writing for a couple of magazines as well. Former editor of Muscle and Fitness, Bobby Ellenfeld, who fortunately passed away many years ago, but he had scouted me essentially from just reading my posts on Facebook at the time. I kind of had sort of like a Facebook following and reading my column on Leap TS. So I hit this position when I was like very young, where I wasn't making that much money, but I was writing for magazines, I was writing articles online. Started sort of accruing what we now call today a personal brand, and yeah, it was interesting. I was seeing the internet change in real time, where this digital economy was taking hold and this exploding. And I saw then in the mid 2010s that was probably going to be the future of fitness, which it was. Personal training when I started it was just a deadbeat kind of career. There's lots of jokes made about how dumb personal trainers were, and there still are. But the internet just changed everything. Instagram, YouTube, the ability to reach millions of people and educate them. And that's also when the blogging era was really big. And a lot of my early personal training education, aside from reading textbooks, was just trying to find other personal trainers who had more experience than I did. What were they saying about training? About fitness, about biology. What were their strategies? And it all eventually converged together when I finally launched my own brand in 2017, which it took off. I've always been very consistent with content creation and everything that entails. And it allowed me to create this digital brand, this online brand, where I work from home. I can live anywhere. I've traveled the world a couple times over. And I've also been able to expand to other things. But the core of the business is still to this day what I consider just fitness, health education. Health is an infinite market. Everybody wants to be healthy. If you don't have your health, what do you have? And so that's never going away.
I was trying not to laugh when you were mocking how easy it is to become a trainer. It it took me a little longer to read the textbook, but I was just blown away by the lack of knowledge in training involved in getting that certification. And I won't call them out, but I was just like, I know nothing more about actually training people. I learned more about the business of training people and CYA, but I was like, how does this make me a better trainer? Because I've been doing it on the side for years, but this didn't teach me anything about training techniques or actual, you know. So I was trying not to laugh really hard when you said that, because like, yeah. But you managed to just take your brand to a whole nother level of training people and succeed. I was blown away when I started reading your background. It's like, how have you stayed in this industry this long? Like, it just doesn't happen.
It's pretty uncommon. Like I think you're saying with training, the barrier to entry is so low. I couldn't tell you even with the textbooks. I remember they had basic anatomy in them. There's some useful information, obviously, but you can get certified in a weekend. If I'm being honest, like anyone in the business industry will tell you this, personal training, like it typically selects for like a pretty bottom tier individual, unfortunately. Like most people quit. They get certified, they get into it, and they realize like, wow, this is like a very complex, involved job. And when you think about like qualifications to become a trainer, just like all you need is what CPR certification. That's it. And you're taking people through this environment in the gym, right, where you could very easily injure somebody, you could cause grievous bodily harm. They're spending money like on a hypothetical product of hopefully getting results. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Nobody learns anything from first principles at all. And I mean, this is why people drop out. But for my sake, I was always good at studying. I was very studious, and I wanted to help people. It was just those first like 4 or 5 years of training. If you are dedicated to it, it's an absolute grind because you realize you don't know anything. You're sort of, and you're oftentimes like undoing negative knowledge. A lot of myth making, there's a lot of trends in fitness of stuff that we believe for a period of time. It either gets disproven later. Oh, maybe that wasn't the best, most effective process for that. But I just kept at it. I kept at it, and it gave me a very good education, certainly in human biology, but also like psychology as well. You have to understand people. It's a talk job. Very often you're just talking to somebody for an hour, and they just want a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
They hired you to get them in shape, but also as humans being human beings, if you spend an hour with somebody 3 times a week, you're probably going to get to know them pretty well. And I love training clients, loved it. But at the same time, it's not like a scalable career. Obviously, it's hourly. I had the period of years where I was getting up at 5 to work at 6. I'd go to like sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night, like my last 8 p.m. client. And you're just tired at that point. You talk to so many people. Client 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8+ clients a day, and it's the whole time talking. You have to be on for all those people. You can't be tired. I don't feel like speaking to you today when they show up. Luckily I have some extrovert personality, but eventually after a few years of doing that, I was like, okay, like what's next? And I saw the internet was growing then. Internet's been around a long time, but with the advent of YouTube, Instagram, blogging. Blogging's kind of dead now, but at the time, 2010 was very relevant. I realized a lot of content online is just how to do stuff. It's educational content. Maybe it's entertaining and you like the personality and they have great stories and they're funny, but every day people get online, they're just looking stuff up all the time. And certainly for like the fitness career, like how am I going to make money doing this? I realized the vast majority of people, certainly men, if assuming they do go to the gym at all, they're just looking for workouts, looking for a program. Like it is that basic. It's like, all right, I'm here. What am I going to do? And like they'll open up their phone or they'll bring a magazine with them. At least they did then. They're just looking stuff up. Chest workout, on YouTube. Crazy chest workout. And I knew from working with Bob Illenfeld, Muscle Fitness editor, he had been the editor on 531, that program, Jim Windler. So I don't know, maybe your audience doesn't know what that is, but in 2010, 531 was like the first ebook that like hit it big in fitness. It was a powerlifting model program. It was super popular, like in the early 2010, 2015. It still sells today. And I knew from talking with Bob, since Bob and I had hung out like on a one-to-one basis. I remember talking with him at the Arnold Classic like in 2014, I think. But 531 had sold like, I think at that point, like over 100,000 copies. And it was a $30 ebook. And I know it's sold more today. If you look it up, I think it's like over 250,000 sales now. But at the time, he told me it's like it sold 100,000 copies, $30 each. That's do the math. Okay, $3 million. I was like, so I remember hearing him tell me that. I was 24, and I was just stunned. Right? It's like the book sold 3 million. It didn't compute. But I realized I'm like, wait, like people just want good information. Okay, that's fundamentally, if someone wants to get healthy, fit, they're just looking for some type of plan they hope will deliver results. And that program certainly works, 100% does. And they had no competition then at all. Like, fitness ebooks were a smaller market, but there was less competition in the market. So I had that idea. And then later on, I worked for John Meadows for a period of time. He's a very famous bodybuilder. He fortunately passed away as well from a heart attack. But he was selling these like very comprehensive 12-week bodybuilding programs for like $300-400. And when you're on the opposite side of the business, not the public-facing side, but like the back end, I was seeing the sales and the traffic conversion rates, and I realized like people just want good information. They want plans. They want programs. They want something. They want something to follow. They want a guide. And I knew, okay, if I can get good enough, eventually, like in a few years, I should be able to do this myself. And then that's what I eventually did. Like my business is predominantly built on information products. and they're cheap, they're very affordable, but people love them. People love them, and it makes me very grateful that people do them. It's like, hey man, like that was the best $50 I ever spent. Like I bought that product, I followed it for 4 months, like it changed my body. It dispelled all the bullshit around fitness. I've done it 4 times. I've had clients that have bought at this point like 10, 20 programs. They buy everything, but they always buy it knowing like I'm going to learn something. I could spend a couple $1,000s on a trainer in person, or I could just follow you, spend maybe $100 a month at most, for like your training group, and I'm going to get so much more. Now their health, their bodily health, it's not something they have to be concerned about anymore. It's all kind of on autopilot at this point.
I'm sitting here trying to keep my mouth shut and just not fanboy, because you're dropping names that's like the gods of strength, actual intelligent lifting to me. Talking about Jim Windler, I've definitely done 531, such a solid program.
Yeah.
Still to this day, it's still worth the $30 or whatever. Or now you can get them in paperback. But I love that program. I can't count how many times I've actually recommended that program to people. It's like, this is just, whether you're seasoned or starting, this was just a good program. John Meadows gave away so much of it. His YouTube channel was so incredible because he just gave away so much powerful information that was just such high quality.
I remember filming those early videos with him. Some of them, I guess it still hurts me that he's gone. But I remember his like very early videos. These are over a decade ago, and it was it's exercise demonstrations, exercise index, how to do this, how to do that. But that's what people need. Like so often, like I've seen so many people in fitness over the years where they move into this is kind of a running joke in the fitness industry. Like if you're around long enough, like you eventually become a life coach. Like you sort of ascend fitness, like I'm going to coach you in life now. Like, and I've never done that where like my core business is still fitness. It's health. If you can get someone healthy, they're fit, they're strong, they're muscular, they feel good with their body, you got the energy and motivation to do whatever else you want in life. But that's sort of your base. And that's always going to be valuable to people. I saw that with John, where like a lot of the early content, it was really rough. It didn't have production value that people came to expect later. Yeah, but it was just, he had a great physique. He was just a guy, and he was just showing you how to do the exercise right.
Oh, yeah.
And, sometimes there were uncommon movement stuff he'd kind of come up with, and it's like, okay, here's how you do like the pinwheel style hammer curl he likes, crossbody hammer curl.
Oh my God, the Meadows row changed my back.
Meadows row. Yeah.
Oh
another
God.
one.
Like it totally changed my back development entirely. And I just never, but man, the difference. Yeah, I laugh when they actually name an exercise after you. It's probably worth paying attention because enough people thought it was good enough that it became your signature moves. Right. Like I said, we can get off on this all day, guys, but that's actually not what we're going to talk about today. Now, Ajax, in our correspondence before the show, you said something, and I wrote it down because I wanted to get it right. So this is a direct quote from our correspondence. Being a man has depth and breadth that is lost in the current consumer cycle, bite-sized content and superficial points. So yes. I really want to have that conversation. But let's start with the conversation. I don't know if you saw the documentary they did, What is a Woman?
Matt Walsh.
Yeah, Matt Walsh did. You obviously very much have an opinion of what is a man, what it takes to be a man. So what is a man?
Yeah. So like this is the thing with like the question of what is a man. There's multiple definitions of this. So like the reason why I said depth and breadth is because we like the modern information environment that we all live in, which is being online. Everything has to be reduced down to sound bites. Is constantly like a very pithy, viral sounding statement. Being a woman is this, being a man is this, and that's valuable. That's good. It's not a bad thing, but it also betrays the fact that the human experience is vast and infinite. And if you are a man, that means something. It means a lot of things. I would say the most basic fundamental social level, being a man requires competency. There's an expectation for all men over the course of your life, whether you are a good man or a bad man, whether you're a father, whether you're single, whatever your role is, that you at least be competent. You are good enough at something where you can take care of your own existence. I always tell this to the younger guys, like that's just the minimum expectation. A lot of the negative stereotypes we have as men, a lot of the negative stereotypes we have towards men as they get older is when they're just helpless. There's going to become a time in your life where you can no longer be a child. You have to put away childish things. So you can be a little boy, you can be a young boy, you can be adolescent. And it's like, okay, you're going to be a man now. What does that mean? Well, that means you go through a collective process of experiences where you're just independent and people can trust that you can take care of yourself. Just very basic. That's not necessarily aspirational. That's not, it's not like, wow, like you've hit the apex achievement, but can you take care of yourself? It's a yes, no question. Then as you ascend towards higher levels, like you want to become more of a powerful kind of archetype, then it becomes like, what kind of effect can you have in the world? So it's like, well, what is a man? Like, okay, well, man you can be a heroic figure. You could be a paternal figure. You could be someone that moves the world. You could be someone that's responsible for people. And I always like the kind of model, like the king warrior magician lover kind of model, where it's not perfectly accurate, but it divides out, sort of categorizes masculinity into there's kind of four generic characteristics. Some men are very inclined towards leadership. They want to be responsible for people. Mm-hmm. And some men are very physical, and their body is your sort of primary instrument as to how they show up in the world, what their skill set is. And then you have the guys who are extremely intellectual. Like they're just their mind. They got the mind power that way. And then you have the people, you have men who are, more relationship driven. Not necessarily a lover in the sense of women, but just a lover in the sense like they are about people, and everything they do is going to involve the relationships of people. And these things they're not separate. It's not as if like you're only one thing. You're going to inhabit all these roles at the same time. But there's going to be something that you lead with. There's going to be something. There's going to be a richness to that experience. And then, beyond all that, there's also becoming a father, which is, okay, if you're going to become a father or husband, okay, now you're a paternal figure to people. Now you actually have to take care of people. And that's going to test your ability to love, your ability to lead, and your own strength of character, and your ability to produce, and your ability to provide. That sort of encompasses everything at once. And that doesn't get talked about at all. That very rarely gets talked about because it's actually, there's complexity to it. There's nuance, there's depth. It's much easier to say just a man needs to be strong. Like, yes, absolutely. Okay. What does that mean?
I love that once you got past the basic competency of being able to take care of yourself, because I've met a lot of guys who can't. The next thing you led into was how you want to impact the world. Because we live in such a self-centered society a lot of times that we skip over one of the big roles of men is we're built to carry more weight than that. We're meant to have an impact. That's at the base of our design. And you're right. The archetypes aren't perfect, but there is no perfect explanation, right? You can't. I was told at the beginning of the show, I had a professional YouTube coach tell me my show would fail entirely because it was not niche enough. Now, I will say my YouTube channel is not the biggest because most of my listeners are audio based, but that's fine. My show is a podcast. The video is actually kind of a side note. But I told him, it's like, I can't get more niche than this because I'm not just a girl dad. That's not the only part of my life, right? I have 2 daughters. This is not a girl dad is not the only description of who I am, right? No one is that two-dimensional. Men are not two-dimensional. No one is. And so I love that you jumped into how with every single one of those archetypes, you went back to how are you impacting the world with those archetypes? How are you leading? We don't hear a lot of men talk about that these days.
Like we live in I think it's be fair to say we live in a very self-centered society. You see that a lot with male content today, especially the stuff marketed towards young guys. It's what would you even call it? It's sort of like it's just like the hose and money kind of marketing. Where it's like, all right, like if you can get bitches, you get women, like that it's supposed to mean something. Like, okay, I have sexual access to the opposite sex. Like, cool, that's really cool. I've told guys this, like, if you're still struggling with sex and women by the age of 25, like, you have some inner work to do. Like, that's not impressive. Having sex is not impressive. Yeah, but when you're, if you're when you're 15, maybe it is. When you're 18, like, if that's where you're mentally at in life, okay. Like, I'm not condemning of it, but I'm like, there is more to existence than just that. And there's certainly money. Like, it's like, like Andrew Tate is he's actually a good friend of mine. Like, where's your Bugatti? It's
Hmm.
like, yes, like having money and being able to show status is very important. Is that all you live for? Like, there has to be something beyond that. Is it just status? But so the young guy content that gets produced, a lot of it appeals to sort of like our baser desires, sex, money, maybe sort of like the appearance of power without having power. But then if you are a bit older, you're like 30 plus, if you're a father, if you actually like own a business, if you're actually responsible for people, you realize a lot of it's just hedonism marketing. How much money can I spend? How much status can I be shown to have? None of that really means anything as you age. Maybe it's meaningful to you, but that's a very shallow existence. Most of what gives our life meaning, I'd say largely what gives our life meaning, is having a sense of duty towards something. Whether that's other men because we're part of a team, whether that's our business, whether that's our work, whether that's our family, living solely for yourself and nothing else, that it will become empty eventually. There's something impressive about that. I was, years and years ago, I remember seeing like kind of what's called the early manosphere. Where it was
Hmm.
just very dating focused, like how to get laid is what the content was. Like, okay,
Right.
like, yeah, again, I get it. Like, lots of guys struggle with women. I get it. Uh, but are you gonna, let's assume you overcome that. Are you really going to be a 45-year-old guy trying to pick up chicks? Yeah, there's a scene from the you ever seen the 1990s movie The Wedding Singer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there's actually this great scene in like the middle of it. And it's funny, but I thought about it now recently, where I guess Adam Sandler, he broke it off with his ex girlfriend, didn't work out with Drew Barrymore, so he's with his buddy. He's like, I'm just gonna be like you and me, just picking up women and not caring about tomorrow. I'm like, that's gonna be my life. And then his friend tells him, he's like, I'm not happy. I'm miserable. Because no one wants to see a 50-year-old guy picking up chicks. I wish I had someone that actually loved me. Like, yeah, I wish I had an actual human relationship that meant something. I'm like, yeah, I thought about that scene the other day. I was having this conversation with a couple friends of mine about, like, how the manosphere is involved. I'm like, that not that that was a manosphere movie. I'm like, that was a good scene. It's like, I've seen that happen with certain people within the movement. Like, they get into their 40s, 50s. Like, you're a 50-year-old man talking about trying to get girls. Like, is this it? You've had 3 decades of your life to create something. Like, this is really it for you. Okay. Like, all right. I'm like, I don't think you've evolved much personally. And then you meet guys, like Eric Prince, I think is a good example recently of, like, very impressive figure where it's like, okay, the guy came from a super successful company. He's got, I think, like a dozen children, something like that. He's got tons of kids. Built like a multinational company, Blackwater. He's like worked in government, like worked at the highest level. At the same, like, actually having real power. Now he's sort of like semi-retired from it. Like, talk about a guy with like breadth and depth, right?
Hmm.
Super educated, has been a leader, has led teams. Also, like, prides himself on being a father, was present for all of his kids, has done all these things, and is so quiet about all of it. Just talks about it, but he talks about his life with absolutely no pretense. But no sense of arrogance at all. Just like, this is life I've had. This is what I've done. This is what I think about, the state of things. Like, he gives his opinion. He's very qualified, obviously. Like, that's an impressive figure. Again, depth and breadth. There's so much you can do with your life with the time that you have. So focusing only on one thing, especially something that I consider sort of, immature, or just like, like a young man's struggle. There's so much more. There's so much more.
I've been very excited in the last several years since I started the show. When I started the show, part of it was I wanted to add another voice besides the what I saw with it rah rah, beat the chest, scream, eat raw meat, hose. It's like I saw all this in men's the men, world of man, and it's like, okay, I want to be a different voice than that, right? I don't think that's healthy, and I've been very excited the last couple of years as I'm seeing that conversation across multiple platforms start to change more and more, and it's less rah rah rah. I'm the MGTOW movement seems to be dying out, which I'm grateful for because that was just some of the stupidest nonsense I've ever seen. But seeing the conversation change and more men talking about, you know what, there's a lot deeper, more meaningful things to life. There's bigger purposes than this. It's exciting at this moment for me. It's like really exciting to see that direction we're starting to move as more and more men are going, hey, maybe there's something bigger in life, right? Maybe it's not just chasing chicks or chasing money.
It's evolved, and like I mean, that's the I think the life cycle of man. Like you will go through arcs. There's certain that's really what the UFI is like. What is being a man? Part of being a man is just going through different stages of existence where your priorities and your beliefs, like they're going to change as you change, as you grow. You know, when you're 15 to 20, a lot of the struggles that we have are just popularity, girls, feeling self-confident. You get to 2025, now hopefully you're out in the world, you're some degree of independent. It's like, okay, you're going to have to start building the talent stack. You're going to have to start developing something of personality. Hopefully by 25, your social skills have solidified where you feel confident just speaking with people, speaking with the opposite sex. Like these are very fundamental things. And I know that some men struggle with them throughout their whole life, right? You could be 40 and struggle to take care of yourself, but like hopefully you nail that down when you're young. And then you have this 25 to 30-year-old window where, again, hopefully you've found something that you're good at, you can take seriously, you're developing your talents in it, and you're building towards having some sort of professional basis where it's going to take you into your 30s. And then 30s, I say, is like that becomes a dividing line for men. Not that it's too late to change yourself. If you hit 30 and you're still not good at anything, you're still struggling with confidence, like you are, in fact, you're going to be behind. You're going to be seeing men who are the same age as you, who are in fact ahead of you. And it will become relevant if let's say you want to get married, you want to meet a woman, or just you want self-respect, like all men desire self-respect. It's like, okay, you're going to have to do more and change some things dramatically. And then you hit 35. Now I'm at the stage where a lot of the men I've grown up with or I've got relationships with, they become fathers. They're married. They have a business now that's taken off. And so you see the fruits of your labors. And then you see the guys who are 40 and maybe they're not retired, but now they've had 20 years, perhaps they've put in something. And they have that satisfaction that comes with, okay, I have kids, I have family, I have a business, and I've done well. I'm proud of the work in my life. And then, then what's next? Well, you have to challenge yourself in different ways. You have to, sort of see like, what am I actually weak at, or what's something that maybe I'm curious about that I want to be explorative and adventurous. I'm just going to go do just to sort of keep my edge. And then, of course, there's stages beyond that too. When you become a grandfather, or if you do stay in business for a long time, you're trying to build out an empire. And that's where like the meat of the male experience is. You talk to guys like that who are older than you, and they have so much wisdom they've built up over the course of their life. You contrast that with being like a younger guy. Obviously, you just don't know anything. And so much of like young masculinity, I want to say that it's performative. It's not, they're not faking it. All that stuff. Less of the young guys get into. It's like, the raw meat, being super macho. Like, but like, machismo is real. But also there's an element of it where you're doing this because you want other people to see that you're doing it. Because you're hoping that it gives you something. Someone's, look at me, I'm a man too. Okay. Like, that's fine. That's okay. Hopefully when you're 35, you're still not having that attitude. You've grown out of it. Masculinity on the most basic levels it's just action. Are you taking action? Are you demonstrating competency? Is your ambition being apparent through your day-to-day habits? It's yes, no question.
I like it. Guys, we've been discussing the question, what is a man? In the next part of the show, Alex is going to help us out a little bit with one of the things that some of us struggle with as we get a little bit older in our lives and start to develop these skills and get into business or into our jobs. And that's taking care of our own health, because as men, it's actually one of the first things we tend to neglect. Like just across the board, I have seen it. And maybe that's just my experience, but that's what I've seen across the board. It's one of the first things men will forsake as they start to grow bigger aspirations, whether it's work or family, is we sacrifice our health. So Alex is going to help us out with that a little bit. and I'm going to keep butchering his name. Sorry about that, Ajax.
All good.
We're going to our sponsor. We'll be right back more with Alexander Cortez. Struggling to catch quality Z's at night? It's time to change that narrative. Sleep isn't just a luxury. It's the crucial component for your overall well-being. From managing your weight to boosting muscle growth, reducing stress, and even enhancing your daily performance, sleep plays a vital role. Are you ready to level up your sleep game, get a better night's sleep overall? Then look no further than ghostbed.com. Join me in experiencing the difference with Ghostbed. It's been a game changer for my sleep routine over the years. That's why here at the Fallible Man podcast, we're honored to partner with our sponsor, ghostbed.com, to bring you this discount. So head to ghostbed.com, unlock a sweet 30% discount on your order using the code Fallible. Don't wait any longer to upgrade your sleep quality. Let's make tonight the start of a better sleep and a better days ahead. Now, let's dive back into the show. Guys, welcome back. In the last part of the show, we talked a little bit about what Ajax does personally as a business and his brand, and we discussed the question of what is a man. In this part of the show, we're going to dive into your health because a lot of guys tend to let that go. There's a reason there's the reputation for the dad bod, right? It's one of the things we tend to let go as we progress in our life. And I would be absolutely remiss to have a trainer of Ajax's caliber on here without getting you guys some tidbits of how to take better care of yourself. Ajax, one of the things I like about your approach is very holistic. You understand that there is a lot more than just going to the gym. So let's basically touch on the 4 pillars of health.
Yes.
And how those work together, if you would.
Yeah. So with health, like for men, like if you were to consider that there's one like foremost quality you have to have as a man, you gotta be strong. You have to be healthy. If you're not healthy, your capacity to do anything is going to be diminished. It's just the reality of it. Like I consider that very axiomatic. It's not really arguable. So how do we stay healthy? How do we be healthy? Being healthy is not compartmentalized from your life, obviously. To have energy, to have vitality, to have the enthusiasm, motivation to get up every day and do anything, that's going to be based upon your metabolism, your overall durability. So what does that entail? There's 4 things, the way I set it up. These are basic things, but they need to be in place. Number 1 is you have your circadian rhythm, and you have sleep. If you're not sleeping well, if your wake up time is dysregulated, if you're going to bed at super late at 2 a.m., you're going to suffer for it. You can get away with that when you're young, maybe. You're 22, getting no sleep. Okay. If you are 42, getting no sleep, that is going to have some very deleterious effects, quite immediately as well. Having high blood pressure, having heart arrhythmia, being overweight, that all comes from lack of sleep. That comes from dysregulated circadian rhythm. Like you have to nail that down. And men love to blow this off. Guys love to blow this off, especially when they're young. I don't need sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Okay, you're going to be dead before you get to that point where you can enjoy sleep. I can tell you right now, if that's your attitude. I'm 35 now, and you get into your mid 30s, you get into your 40s, especially, you will start seeing guys in your peer group drop off because they didn't take care of themselves. And the ones who are super high stress and overwork themselves on purpose because they need the cortisol rush and sleep really lousy, they die. I had a friend of mine contact me last week where his father had a heart attack scare, had a mini heart attack basically. So in his 50s, overweight, very hard worker, but just never took care of his health, chronic stimulant drinker, junkie, one of those guys would just be slamming coffee all day, 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day. Had a heart attack, goes to the hospital, had to be hospitalized for 3 days, gets out, and the doctor had leveled him, like, you're going to be dead in 5 years if you don't get your health right. Like that's your future. Guys freaked out. Oh my God, like, I can't believe it happened to me. You're not going to be the exception. Betting that you'll be the exception to all your bad habits is a stupid bet. So, sleep. Got to fix your sleep. Sleep and circadian rhythm. And then, following that, you have nutrition. I don't subscribe to a diet philosophy with nutrition with diet. You need to eat this way. The best diet is a balanced diet. If you're a very physically active guy, you're going to need more calories. You're going to need more carbohydrates, probably. If you are very inactive, maybe you've been obese, you've got metabolic syndrome, you've got food addiction issues. Going zero carb, very low carb, that would probably be better for you. So that's a big expanse of options there. Could be higher carbohydrate, could be no carbohydrate. Protein intake is fundamental. 1 gram per pound of lean mass, 1 gram per pound of body weight. Your body's made out of protein. You're made out of amino acids. You need to eat amino acids. This is very axiomatic stuff. This isn't ideological. It's like you need to eat food to not die. And you need to eat certain amounts of protein, carbohydrates, and fat to be healthy. The exact amounts, that's going to vary a bit. You can get into the numbers, specificity of the numbers. But these things need to be in place for you to be a functional human being. So you have your circadian rhythm, you have sleep, you have then exercise. I'm sorry, circadian rhythm, sleep, you have diet, and you have exercise, which is, okay, what are you going to do on a week-to-week basis that keeps you physically robust? And again, I don't have an ideological position. Like, this is the best way to train. Like, the best way to train is the way that works for you. I can tell you from an objective, data-driven standpoint that if you have higher muscle mass, higher lean body mass, and you have a reasonably high VO2 max, you have good cardiovascular health, you should live a long time. You should maximize your lifespan, have a degree of vitality. Whether that's riding the assault bike, whether that's running, whether that's doing jiu-jitsu 4 days a week, whether that's, maybe you love to bodybuild and you want to be in the gym 5 days a week lifting on a bro split. Cool. Like it all works. Everything works in the end. It's finding a system that works for you. I have a training circle of guys, high energy entrepreneur is what I call it. But the guys in that group, like they have different options. Some guys train 2 days a week, it's total body. That could work. The minimum effective dose for strength training is about 4 sets a week. That's not that much. That's like, that could be done in one workout. If you could be doing 4 sets a week for your major muscle groups, you could be doing 20 plus sets. Well, what's best? Well, what's actually practical, reasonable? Like, what are your actual goals? If you want to be one of those guys and be a bodybuilder, I've worked with those guys. You're that older guy, you're super fit, maybe you compete. Awesome. Like, you're over on that side. You're doing the higher volume stuff. Like, you've built your life around that kind of bodybuilding lifestyle. If you just want to be reasonably fit, where like that's not your priority. Your priority is your businesses, your family. Okay, go over here, train 2 to 3 days a week with a solid science-based program. That's going to work great as well. Your results might be comparable to the other guy, depending upon genetics. But you find a system that's nailed down on those fundamental principles: volume, intensity, progressive overload, recovery. Finding the volume of training that works for yourself or the schedule, and you just keep doing that. Then, like I said, anyone can get into the weeds with exercises. Whether a movement works, whether this type of bicep curl works the outer head of the bicep versus the inner head. I'm like, that's a very granular conversation from some of the stuff. Like, what do you think of? I get asked this a lot, like barbell movements. Like, some people think I'm anti-barbell. I love the barbell. But if you're an older guy, maybe you've had lumbar spine issues, you had spinal fusion, like, you don't necessarily need to go to the bar. You just need to do something that works your legs heavy. Whether that's a barbell squat or a Bulgarian split squat or a leg press or a pendulum leg press or lunges, I don't care. I care about what you care about. So let's find what works for you. And you stick with that thing, you nail it down, you find your key exercises or movements, and you just keep doing them. And if you can do that over a long enough period of time, you build enough muscle mass where you're reasonably strong, you can do pull-ups and chin-ups, you can hopefully jog a little bit without having your heart rate get too high. We can test all this stuff, obviously, with body comp tests. Like, this is all testable stuff. I try to always demystify fitness for people. Like, this isn't this guy's thinking stuff up. Like, I wonder if this is true or not. Who cares? I'm just going to say it. Like, but we can measure heart rate. We can measure blood pressure. We can measure your fat mass, lean body mass. We can do basic strength tests. This, like I said, it's very data driven. So if we hit these key areas and we have a system for that, then you should be good to go. You should be healthy. And then whatever your real aspirations are in life, go attack those things. Like, obviously my career is built on fitness. I've made fitness my thing. I know that's not most people. I'm not the average bro person. I decided that I want to make fitness my life. I don't expect that for anyone else. Whatever your highest purpose is in life, go do that. But have that baseline where you have your health. And if you got that foundation in place, sky's the limit for you.
Guys, I don't generally recommend trainers very often, but after doing my research, I would absolutely recommend Ajax to you if you guys are looking for online coaching and his programs because of this conversation right here. I've talked to a lot of people in the fitness industry. Having somebody who understands is a holistic approach and is wanting to address what you actually want to achieve in real life, as opposed to this is the program I do. I've met so many trainers over the years who are like, this is their program. There was this one guy I saw at a gym. I won't call him out. Big box gym. And I watched him pick up a new client, right? I literally watched the first interaction of him meet a new client. The gym has scheduled this guy with new member with him. He shook his hand. They walked over and he's put him right into one of his programs. No evaluation, no conversation, no communication. You have no idea what this guy wants from you, but he took him straight over to an incline bench. And I was like, what are you doing? Do you know he wants to use an incline bench? Do you know if he safely can? I had one client who we went through some just basic range of motion tests, and he found out he had a shoulder impingement. He had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
His right side, he couldn't bring it above parallel at all. And he had no idea until we just walked through some motions, right? And I'm watching this guy put him straight in an incline press with weight. I'm like, what are you doing? So I love that you have this. Hey, my client, the person I'm working with, has these goals. This is his life. This is who he is. There is not a right. This is the prescribed how to do it. I've met way too many guys who are hard up on this is the diet. This is the split.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, this is the dual box, guys.
That's super common in the industry. And on one aspect, like on a level, I get it. Yeah, from a business standpoint, it's very easy if you brand yourself as having like the distinct method, a distinct training style, distinct diet, like that can work great for business.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I just, my background was training actual people. I didn't become a trainer to get famous online in 2020. I started training in 2010 because I wanted to educate people and hopefully keep in shape. And you realize that so many different things can work. There's so many different styles of training, and also genetic individuality is real. There are those guys where like I always like sort of like the better your genetics are, the more generic and sort of this brain dead your training can be. There are those men you can just have them touch weights, just do literally anything. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna do 5x5, and it works, and they love it. It's like cool, like this, just keep doing that. I'm not gonna try and fix what's not broken. Just keep doing that. If you want to add in exercise for biceps, like go ahead. Then you have on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have those guys who are genuinely unathletic. They were never the fit guy in high school. Like they were the guy that like avoided the gym, avoided sports, because they're bad at it. And what works for them, it might be kind of weird. I have seen things, especially the people who are genetically disadvantaged, where maybe you do need to do just like really high reps. If you look at the body of research, like it's a bell curve effect, right? Well, you can pull out averages, of course, and say, okay, 10 sets a week is optimal for muscle growth, or whatever the 5 to 10 rep range is the best for strength and muscle gains, because you have to account for the fatigue. If you do high reps, it's not as efficient. Like guys, I'm not going to say toss all of it out, but you're looking at a chart. You're looking at an average. If you look at the actual data, you got people on this side that respond to this. They're the low volume guys, or the guys who respond really well to heavy high percentages. Then you got the opposite perspective. You got the guys who barely grow from anything, super low rate of muscle strength gain. But of course, if you average it, you can pull out that middle number. That doesn't mean it's going to work best for the individual. You don't know that until you work with them. So like I said, a lot of different things can work. And fundamentally, what does it break down to? It's just like, it's just so basic. It's like, all right, are they actually building muscle strength like measurably? Because that can only be done with a few movements. You can measure this stuff. And so no two programs are going to look exactly alike. You can certainly make generic style programs, which can work really well, potentially. Like there's nothing wrong with a better program. But if you are going to try to, again, like customize your fitness to your life, you're going to have to account for your own body, your own biology. Just copying what someone does. Well, they look like that, so I'll take that. I'll look like that too. I'm like, maybe not. That's the biggest fallacy everybody makes. It's like drone population. You see a guy, great physique, all his copies work out. That could be awesome. That could be a total disaster.
How many times have you heard, well, it worked for Arnold? I've seen so many guys try to copy Arnold workout.
Ronnie, but like you look at those guys when they're like Arnold at 16 had a better physique than most men will after 20 years of lifting. Like, he was a Mr. Olympia. I worked with bodybuilders for a long time. When you work with guys who are genuine freaks, it's not like the principles of training don't change, but you can get away with so much dumb stuff. Or you might have a guy where it's just not comparable. You have a guy where he lives for his body. He's a pro bodybuilder. I've worked with IFBB pros. His whole life is designed around the gym.
Yep.
He gets 9 to 10 hours sleep a day. He's got an afternoon nap. He's eating six meals. He's also got incredible genetics. They can handle absurd volumes of training. It's like, okay, that's really cool. That's awesome. Yes.
And his diet is strict and on point.
Super strict.
Perfect.
Cardio's, everything's done on a schedule by the hour.
They don't ever get away from that diet either, man. It's just those guys, that kind of dedication, they're eating better than you, I promise.
Yeah, the ultra bro diet. And then you have a guy like one of my clients. He's Indian, South Asian phenotype. This guy's just naturally skinny, slim. He's not naturally strong. It's like we're just we're training is obviously we're starting off on a very basic level. He can train about 3 days a week. He works in the Department of Defense. Has a very demanding schedule. I'm like, okay, train that guy. Like, get him results. What bodybuilder does and what he does are going to be dramatically different. Principles are going to be the same. Well, they're both limited, yes. They both need to eat high protein, yes. But make a program that works for him, that's adaptable. And make him, give him enough confidence he knows he's going to see results. If he has to travel or someone gets sick or whatever, or he's super strict out for the course of the week, like make that work. That's why I like working with people. That's far more challenging. But it also reveals to you you have to actually know the truths of training. What is axiomatically biologically true when it comes to the human body? It can't just be bullshit
theory. I always liked clients who were working around an injury or recovering from an injury. Those were always my favorite people to get to work with, just because it's like, okay, let's dial this in because you have goals, and right, ultimately the goal is for you to be healthy and live a life you want to. So you're working around this, right? You've done this to your body. There are still ways to train this. We'll just, figure out how that works. And, but I loved working with those people because they want it more and are willing to make the necessary changes over the people I ran into who are just like, oh, I want to be in better shape. I actually got into training to repair my body.
Likewise.
Right. I broke my spine at 23. I told you about my neck earlier. Yeah. I fell 22 feet and landed on a church pew.
A church pew? You didn't work in the church? Or?
Yeah. I was up by the ceiling and I fell and I hit one church pew with my head. I had this massive scar in the back of my head and I hit one in the middle of my back, one of my ankles, and spent 3 days in neuro ICU. They missed the fracture of my spine. There was so much swelling around it. They missed the fracture of my spine. It was like 3 years later when a chiropractor caught it in an x-ray because it was still fractured.
Wow.
One of the pexels off like my L2 or L3, right? One of the pexels off the back is actually vertically fractured and it's just stayed that way. And so my back slips out of place easier than it should. But it was because of that I got in training. It's like, okay, this is an insane amount of pain to live with. How do I start strengthening and stabilizing and making my life work again? And so that's where I went from, I like to go to the gym, to I actually want to know something about this. So helping other people get that back always was fun for me. Work around that. But Alex, you've worked with the creme de la creme, and then you got guys who are just average Joes who just want to make their life good again. And I love that. I love that passion. I think there's a lot of us men out there who can appreciate that, because having access to someone who genuinely wants us to be healthy and take care of us and help us get our lives in order is huge.
So I appreciate that. Like I said, this strength, it's like, strength, obviously, just being healthy. Like you don't have that, like I said, you get older, you just see guys pay for it. And then it's not just you suffering, it's going to be your family, it's going to be your business, it's going to be your employees, like your network of relationships that you have, like all those people can depend upon you. Like you need to be fit. You don't ever want to be in that position where you're in your 30s or 40s having a health scare. And like, what are you going to come? Am I going to see my kids, grow up? Am I going to die? What about all the people that depend upon me? Like it's a horrible feeling to have. If I've seen guys go through it, you can just tell it's absolutely psychologically devastating. Like don't wait. I always tell people this, but like don't wait for a crisis to change. If you know that you're unhealthy right now, like start now, start today. And it starts with this most basic of habits. Just like I was just say, like sleep, circadian rhythm, waking up at the same time, getting up and going for a walk. Making it habitual. It's like, okay, I'm going to get up at my desk every 2 hours and take a stroll. I'm going to eat the same thing in the morning that's actually protein and not, whatever, the Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Well, we live in a more sedentary world than ever. So many more guys sitting at a desk all day or staying in one place all day. It's just crushing our health as men.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lifestyle. I was talking with a client last night where he was just commenting this whole week, he's just like been in the office. And like he wasn't able to train this. He also was sick. He's like, he got really sick. He also still had to work. I'm like, just the gym's not happening right now. He's like, what can I do? I was like, go for a walk, dude. Like that's it. I'm like, like I said, getting healthy doesn't have to be this profound process. Like so much of it is just, can you get from the desk and take like a 15-minute walk every 2 hours? Yeah, just go do that. Because if you do that at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 times in the course of the day, you'll get enough steps in. You'll certainly keep yourself in a better mood. You'll probably find it a bit energizing. And it can, in fact, this be that simple. Not all of health is, most of what makes us healthy is not the gym itself. It's just, the life we lead on a day-to-day basis. Part of it's just activity. It's just having momentum. It's having movement. If you don't move a lot, if you are very sedentary, you feel stuck because you are stuck. It's like a child. If you have a boy, you make him sit in a chair for 4 hours, he's going to be slumped over and unhappy after a certain point. Because how could he not be? But we grow up as adult men, and we somehow think it's dramatically different. It's not. It's always paradoxical. Like I don't have the energy to work out because I don't work out. Like I know, but you're going to have to break that loop at some point. Yeah, and it might start with already just getting from the chair and going.
Alex, you've built a successful business model as an entrepreneur in a space where people, like I said, don't last. And you've changed with it. I love that you've developed right from being an in-person trainer to information online and training that way. You've done this very successfully, and I feel like we've barely skimmed the surface on that. You've worked with people from every walk of life. You've got so much going on. What's next for Alexander Cortez? Any big projects, or I keep saying Cortez. I'm saying that wrong, aren't I?
No, you're fine. Oh, yeah, Cortez. Yeah.
What is the next big project? What are you working on?
Next big thing. I have been writing a book finally about like health fitness. Sort of like this philosophy of it. How to take care of yourself, how to make your life better that way. That won't be done until next year. But that's been my big thing. My audience has been asking for years, like, you should write a book. You should write a book. I've told myself I'm not writing any book at all until I'm at least like a 10-year mark, which we're already past at this point. I've had enough, not professional success, but like client success, where I can say, like with a strong degree of certainty, like this is what works, this is what doesn't. And also, like you need the experience to sort of this distill down your own beliefs. I finally started working on that. So next year too, it'll be 2025 when that finally gets released. I'm putting my soul into that one. As of currently, newest things came out. I have a few other businesses that I'm operator helping to launch. I have a coffee coming out in summer in June, Pistos Cafe, with my business partner. So it'll be a coffee brand that we're launching. I love coffee, so this is a natural evolution. Like I want to offer coffee, so there's that. And then I have a training group which I launched at the beginning of this year. The high energy entrepreneur group, which that's just for men who, if you're a father, you're a business owner, 30 plus, and need accountability and coaching and that social accountability, social group dynamic enforcement, go join that. And that's where, like I said, that's the group model that I do. Yeah, I work with clients one-on-one, and I enjoy that. But I realize for most men, they just need a group of guys that just keep them on point. It's very fundamental to the male condition. Trying to be a soloist, trying to be by yourself, and trying to be an island, by yourself, it doesn't really work. Like that, there's a huge myth to that, like the idea of the, what would you call it, like what are the term young guys use, like a sigma male, like the lone alpha wolf. Like, bro, that doesn't exist once you get older. You meet anyone that's successful that you admire, you look up to, that's an older man, at 30 plus. He, number one, he had help. Really, number two, or probably foremost, he has relationships with people. No one hits the peak of life, solely, living their own existence, as a hedonist. You're going to have relationships. You're going to have people that depend upon you. You're going to have those alongside you for the journey. Like your life is connection that way. The lone wolf alpha bullshit. It's just that appeals to guys in their 20. When you're 30, it's just a funny idea. But relative to the group coaching, I'm sidetracking myself. Relative to like the group coaching, it's like for the entrepreneur guys, I'm like, like guys need support, and if you can check in with the group every single day and ask questions and talk to people, and everyone shows their physique on Friday or Monday, whatever, and states their goals, and you have a resource to draw upon, you make some online friends. That's huge. That's absolutely unnecessary for most guys, because most men today are alone. They're by themselves.
Yeah, male loneliness is at an all-time high.
Yeah, that's a real epidemic that doesn't get talked about because the world at large doesn't care about male suffering at all. This is the reality of it.
Ajax, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Best place is actually on X, on Twitter. That's where I'm like most socially active. You can directly DM me there. AJA_Cortez, Cortes. And I also have Instagram. I have a weekly newsletter that I published for the last 7 years, where I send out at least minimum of 2 newsletters a week. Sort of like science, scientific breakdowns of just useful studies, like science being useful is what I call it. Science-based points, strategies for being healthy, and then like a Friday newsletter of just health upgrades, just useful stuff to use, tactically. And then I have my various products, programs. But I make myself pretty available through social media. But usually X is the best place to reach me, since I can just respond live. Whatever I call it. I can respond any times because I'm always there. Platform's always live. So,
guys, of course, we'll have all of his contact points down in the description and the show notes, whatever platform you're checking this out on. That way you can connect with Ajax. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface on so many things. I think I could spend another hour and a half just picking your brain on entrepreneurship and business. So, guys, if you got something out of this one and you want to have Ajax back, you need to let me know. I think that we could have a wholly different conversation just on entrepreneurship alone and his experiences there. So please let me know. Give me that feedback. I'd love to hear if you want to hear him back. Now, I know you're all just dying to know what Steve Redgrave is known for. It's been weighing on you this entire time we were talking. You guessed rowing, and the answer is actually rowing. Congratulations.
Oh.
Not too shabby for someone who was unsure about a little trivia. Not bad at all. Ajax, we've talked kind of around some areas today. If our listeners today took nothing else out of this conversation, and it doesn't have to be what we talked about, if they took nothing else out of today's conversation, what do you want them to hear before you go?
Yeah, I would say for every man listening, that if you want to be your highest self and live the life that you could dream of having, the highest level of achievement, success, put your health first, always maintain that, and that will be your foundation for the rest of your life. Just that one thing. It can, in fact, be that simple. There's only 2 things that of everyone I've ever worked with, it's successful. They've only 2 things in common. Number one, they follow a schedule. They prioritize their time. They value their time. That's what that represents. And number 2, they exercise. Those are 2 things every man has in common that I consider admirable. Schedule priorities, exercise. You do that, you have that, everything else, as I said, sky's the limit.
Guys, for myself, for Ajax, thanks for hanging out with us today. Be better tomorrow because of what you do today, and we'll see you on the next one.
This has been the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for everything man, husband, and father. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show. Head over to www.thefallibleman.com for more content and get your own Fallible Man gear.